She married without love. But the millionaire fell in love when he discovered she was an untouched wife. She stood behind the glass counter with flour on her sleeves and quiet dignity in her eyes, while the world looked right through her like she didn't exist. That was how everyone saw Elena Moore: invisible, disposable, and ordinary. And that was exactly why Victor Harrington, one of the most powerful millionaires in the city, chose her. Not because he loved her. Not because he admired her. But because he believed she was untouchable. Someone with no leverage, no voice, no past that could threaten him. He was wrong. The bakery smelled like burnt sugar and desperation that night. Elena wiped the same section of the counter again and again, not because it was dirty, but because her hands needed something to do. Her father sat at the small round table near the window, his shoulders slumped, surrounded by overdue bills and red-stamped warning notices. Her mother stood behind him, rubbing his back like she could physically push the fear out of his body. The silence was heavy. Crushing. "Elena," her father finally said, his voice cracking. "Come sit." She already knew. When parents stop using endearments, when they stop smiling, when they stop pretending, something has broken. The bakery had been in their family for 3 generations. It had survived wars, recessions, and the rise of corporate chains. But it couldn't survive this. Rising rents. Equipment failures. A loan that was supposed to save them and instead became a noose around their necks. They owed $450,000. They had 2 weeks before foreclosure. "There's someone coming," her mother said softly. A potential investor." Elena's stomach twisted. Investors didn't come to small bakeries unless they wanted something in return. The bell above the door chimed. And everything changed. The man who stepped inside didn't belong there. His coat alone probably cost more than their monthly revenue. He carried himself like someone who had never waited in line, never asked permission, never been told no. His eyes, cold, calculating, and impossibly calm, scanned the bakery like he was assessing a failing company, not a family's life. "Mr. Harrington," Elena's father said, standing quickly. "Thank you for coming." Victor Harrington. The name alone carried weight. Billion-dollar real estate deals. Political connections. A man whose decisions reshaped skylines. He shook her father's hand politely, nodded to her mother, then looked at Elena. Something flickered in his eyes. Not attraction. Evaluation. "This is our daughter," her mother said. "Elena." Victor inclined his head slightly. "Miss Moore." That was all. No smile. No warmth. Just acknowledgement. They sat. Victor opened a leather folder, his movements precise and unhurried. "I'll be direct," he said. "You're out of time. The bank will not grant another extension." Elena's father swallowed hard. "We know." "I will pay your debt in full," Victor continued as if discussing the weather. "Additionally, I will cover operating costs for the next 2 years." Her mother gasped. Elena felt something colder than fear settle in her chest. "What do you want?" she asked. Victor's eyes locked onto hers. "I need a wife." The words dropped into the room like a gunshot. "A marriage in name only," he clarified. "A contractual arrangement. 2 years. You will live in my home, appear publicly as my spouse, and maintain discretion. In return, your family's financial problems disappear." Her mother stood abruptly. "Absolutely not." Elena's father looked like he was going to pass out. "Why her?" her mother demanded. "Why my daughter?" Victor didn't hesitate. "Because she has no power," he said calmly. "No scandal. No ambition that conflicts with mine. No family connections that complicate things." Elena felt something inside her fracture. He didn't even try to soften it. "She is untouchable," Victor continued. "That makes her ideal." Silence followed. Then Elena spoke. "I'll do it." Her parents turned to her in horror. "Elena." "It's 2 years," she said, her voice steady even as her heart pounded. 2 years so you don't lose everything." Victor studied her again, more carefully this time. "Good," he said. "We marry Friday." The wedding took 12 minutes. No guests. No vows of love. Just signatures and a contract disguised as commitment. When the clerk said, "You may kiss the bride," Victor brushed a brief, impersonal kiss against her cheek. "Welcome," he said quietly. "This is a business arrangement." She nodded. "I understand." She didn't understand how lonely wealth could be. She didn't understand how dangerous underestimating someone could be. But she would. Victor's mansion was cold despite its beauty. They lived like strangers sharing a museum. Separate bedrooms. Scheduled dinners. Polite conversation stripped of emotion. At events, Elena was treated like decoration. Other wealthy women whispered behind her back. Where did he find her? She's not even educated. Probably desperate. Victor never corrected them. He didn't defend her. Why would he? She was untouchable. Until one night changed everything. Elena found him in the kitchen at 2 a.m., surrounded by blueprints and stress. A major housing project, his legacy project, was collapsing. Contractors cutting corners. Safety risks. Political pressure. She listened. And then she spoke. What she suggested didn't just save the project. It exposed something Victor had never considered. Elena wasn't powerless. She was brilliant. She had survived where others had been cushioned by privilege. And for the first time Victor Harrington looked at his wife and saw something dangerous. Respect. The first public humiliation happened 3 weeks after the wedding. Elena remembered it clearly because it was the first time she realized that being invisible could hurt more than being hated. Victor had invited her to a charity gala hosted by one of the most influential real estate families in the city. The kind of event where crystal chandeliers reflected wealth onto polished marble floors, and every smile came with a calculation behind it. Elena wore a simple navy gown, elegant but modest, chosen deliberately to avoid attention. She failed. The attention found her anyway. From the moment she stepped into the room on Victor's arm, conversations paused just long enough for eyes to assess her. Not with curiosity. With disbelief. Whispers followed them like shadows. That's his wife. She looks like staff. Did he lose a bet? Victor heard them. Elena knew he did. His jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't say a word. He simply guided her through the room like an accessory, beautiful, silent, replaceable. She was introduced repeatedly as Victor's wife, never by name. No one asked her opinion. No one cared about her background. No one imagined she had anything valuable to contribute. At one point, a woman draped in diamonds smiled thinly at Elena and said, "You must be very grateful." For what? Elena asked politely. "For your good fortune," the woman replied, her tone sharp. "Marrying up like this." Elena smiled back, calm and composed. "I suppose fortune is relative." The woman laughed, assuming it was a joke. Victor didn't intervene. That night, as they returned home in silence, Elena stared out the car window and felt something settle deep inside her. Not resentment, not anger, but resolve. She would not disappear. The humiliation escalated at Victor's office. He insisted she attend a board luncheon, claiming it would look good. Elena assumed she would sit quietly, smile when required, and fade into the background like always. She underestimated how cruel powerful people could be when they felt superior. The boardroom buzzed with conversation as executives debated a stalled development project. Elena listened, quietly absorbing every word. When a junior executive dismissed concerns about worker safety to cut costs, Elena stiffened. Victor noticed her expression. "Something you want to add?" he asked, his tone neutral, but edged with challenge. The room went silent. Elena hesitated. She could decline. She could retreat. But something inside her refused. "Cutting safety measures will save money short-term," she said evenly, "but lawsuits, injuries, and bad press will cost you 10 times more." A few executives smirked. "And you know this because?" one man asked. "Because I've watched small businesses collapse from ignoring people," Elena replied. "And because community trust is cheaper to maintain than damage control." Pause. Then laughter. Not cruel laughter, but dismissive laughter. Victor said nothing. After the meeting he pulled her aside. "You embarrassed them," he said quietly. "They were wrong," she replied. "That's not the same thing." She met his gaze. "It should be." For the first time Victor didn't respond. That night Victor couldn't sleep. He replayed the meeting again and again, not because Elena was wrong but because she wasn't. It unsettled him. She didn't speak like someone desperate or uneducated. She spoke like someone who understood systems, people, consequences, responsibility. That realization made him uncomfortable, because it contradicted everything he believed about her. The next challenge came from his own family. Victor's mother, Margaret Harrington, invited them to a private dinner under the guise of reconciliation. Elena arrived determined to be respectful. Margaret made it impossible. "So," Margaret said, slicing her steak with surgical precision, "what exactly do you do all day, Elena?" Elena smiled politely. "I'm finishing my degree and helping Victor where I can." Margaret's eyebrow lifted. Helping? Or being helped? Victor watched silently. "I believe partnership is mutual," Elena said calmly. Margaret laughed softly. "My dear, marriage at this level isn't about partnership. It's about appearances. Elena's smile didn't waver. Then it's fortunate that appearances can be misleading. Margaret's expression hardened. Later, alone in the hallway, Victor's mother turned to him. She's unsuitable, Margaret said bluntly. End this arrangement before it damages your reputation. Victor hesitated. She hasn't done anything wrong. That's not the point, Margaret snapped. She doesn't belong. Victor nodded, but something inside him resisted. For the first time, he didn't fully agree with his mother. The turning point came unexpectedly. Victor's affordable housing project, the one Elena had helped save, was scheduled for inspection. A surprise audit revealed falsified reports submitted by contractors Victor trusted. The scandal erupted overnight. News outlets seized the story. Victor's name trended for all the wrong reasons. Board members panicked. Investors threatened withdrawal. Victor worked non-stop, fighting fires he didn't start. And Elena stayed. She reviewed documents late into the night. She organized timelines. She called community leaders Victor had ignored. She spoke to displaced residents with empathy, not corporate language. At one point, Victor overheard her on the phone. No, she said firmly. You deserve transparency. If they won't speak to you, I will. When she hung up, Victor stared at her. You didn't have to do that. Yes, she replied. I did. The audit results cleared Victor, but only because Elena caught a discrepancy that would have been missed otherwise. The board praised Victor publicly. Privately, he knew the truth. Elena saved him. The backlash was swift. Executives who once laughed at her now avoided her eyes. Some resented her. Others feared her. Victor began to notice the shift. At events, people asked for her opinion. At meetings, they listened. Slowly, the narrative changed. But not for everyone. One evening, after a particularly tense meeting, Victor overheard a board member say, "She's manipulating him. Be careful." That night, Victor confronted Elena. "You're changing things," he said. She met his gaze calmly. "Things needed to change. You're gaining influence." "I'm earning it." "Why?" he demanded. "You could stay quiet. Comfortable." Elena's voice softened. "Because silence is a luxury I've never had." The words hit him harder than any accusation. For the first time, Victor saw her not as untouchable, but as unstoppable. The real humiliation came at a charity press conference. A reporter asked Elena directly, "Do you feel intimidated being married into such wealth without contributing financially?" The room went quiet. Victor braced himself. Elena smiled. "I contribute every day," she said. "Just not in ways you measure." The clip went viral. Comments poured in, some cruel, some admiring. Victor watched the video again and again. Something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. Not obligation. Not respect. Something deeper. That night, Victor found Elena on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "You could have walked away," he said. She nodded. "I thought about it." "Why didn't you?" She looked at him, not guarded, not afraid. "Because I don't believe in leaving when things get hard." The silence between them shifted. For the first time, Victor realized the truth he had avoided. He married her because he thought she had nothing. But Elena had everything he lacked. Integrity, courage, compassion. And slowly, dangerously, Victor Harrington was falling in love. The attack didn't come from strangers. It came from inside Victor's world. And that made it far more dangerous. Elena sensed it before it happened. The sudden coldness in conversations, the forced smiles, the way doors closed just a little too quickly when she entered a room. People who once sought her opinion now avoided her gaze. Board members stopped responding to her emails. Invitations arrived addressed only to Victor. She knew that look. It was the look people give when they decide you've crossed an invisible line. Victor noticed too, but he underestimated it. "They're threatened," he said one night, loosening his tie. "It means you're doing something right." Elena didn't answer immediately. "No," she said quietly. "It means they're planning something." The setup was elegant. And cruel. Victor was scheduled to announce a new expansion. One that would solidify his reputation as a socially responsible developer. The press conference would be massive. Investors, politicians, media outlets, all eyes on him. Elena was invited to attend. She didn't realize she was the target. That morning, headlines broke before Victor even left the house. Millionaire's wife accused of corporate interference. Unqualified spouse overstepped role, sources claim. Victor read the article in stunned silence. The accusations were vague but damaging. Claims that Elena had pressured contractors, influenced audits and manipulated community leaders without authorization. The narrative was clear. She was a liability. Victor turned to her. "Elena, did you?" She didn't flinch. "No." Her calm unnerved him more than anger would have. "I know exactly who did this," she continued. "And why?" At the press conference, the atmosphere was electric. The moment Elena stepped onto the stage beside Victor, murmurs rippled through the crowd. A reporter didn't wait. "Mr. Harrington," he called out, "are you aware of the allegations against your wife?" Victor hesitated. Just for a second. It was enough. That pause, captured by cameras, became the moment everyone replayed. Elena felt it. The doubt. The crack. She stepped forward. "I welcome transparency," she said clearly. "If anyone believes I acted improperly, I invite a full investigation." The crowd buzzed. Victor stared at her. She hadn't asked him for permission. That night, Victor was called into an emergency board meeting. Elena was not invited. They waited until he was gone. Elena found the envelope on the dining table, thin, deliberate. Inside was a letter from Victor's legal team. Recommendation: temporary separation for reputational protection. She read it twice. Then she folded it carefully and placed it back on the table. When Victor returned, exhaustion etched into his face, he found her waiting. "They're forcing my hand," he said quietly. She nodded. "I know. They say your presence is a risk." "And what do you think?" she asked. He opened his mouth, closed it. That silence answered everything. Elena stood. "I won't fight you," she said softly. "I won't beg." "Elena." "This marriage began as a contract," she continued. "If you need to end it to protect yourself, I understand." Her composure terrified him. "You're not angry?" "I'm disappointed," she replied. "There's a difference." She packed one suitcase. No drama. No tears. Before she left, she turned to him. "You once said I was untouchable because I had nothing," she said. "Remember that." And then she walked out. The fallout was immediate. The board announced Elena's temporary withdrawal from all involvement. Media praised Victor for decisive leadership. But something felt wrong. The housing project stalled again. Community leaders stopped answering calls. Employees whispered. Productivity dropped. Victor realized too late that Elena had been the bridge between wealth and humanity, between power and trust. Then came the email. From an anonymous sender. Attached. Documents. Proof. Audio recordings. Email chains. Financial trails. The real manipulation came from inside the board. Executives who had sabotaged projects, falsified claims, and framed Elena to remove her influence. Victor's hands trembled as he listened to a recording. "She's dangerous," a board member said. "People trust her more than him." That sentence shattered him. He had let them take her. And they were still lying. Victor didn't sleep that night. At dawn he made his decision. Elena returned to her parents' bakery. Nothing had changed there. The same cracked tiles. The same warmth. The same quiet dignity. But she had. She helped her father knead dough, sleeves rolled up, flour dusting her hands like armor. When Victor walked in, the bell chimed softly. Everyone froze. Elena looked up. Their eyes met. "I was wrong," he said simply. She waited. "I chose power when I should have chosen truth," he continued. "I won't ask you to come back. But I won't stay silent anymore." She studied him. "What are you going to do?" "Burn it down," he replied. "Publicly." She nodded slowly. "Then I'll stand beside you." Not because she had to, but because she chose to. The press conference was rescheduled. This time Victor didn't stand alone. Elena stood beside him, not as decoration, not as liability, but as equal. Victor spoke first. "I failed," he said. "I failed my wife. I failed my values." Gasps filled the room. Then Elena spoke. And the truth followed. Names were named. Evidence displayed. The board members' faces drained of color as their crimes were exposed in real time. The crowd watched instant karma unfold. By the end of the hour, resignations were announced. Investigations launched. Victor turned to Elena. "For the record," he said, voice steady, "she was never untouchable because she was powerless." He looked at her. She was untouchable because she was right. The city woke up to a different Victor Harrington. Not the untouchable billionaire whose name once silenced rooms, but a man who had chosen to shatter his own armor in public. The press conference replayed non-stop. Commentators dissected every second. Analysts froze frames of Victor standing beside Elena, Not in front of her, not shielding himself with distance, but aligned with her. Side by side. The headlines flipped overnight. Harrington exposes corruption with his wife. The woman they tried to silence speaks. Power falls. Truth rises. But redemption is never clean. And justice always demands payment. Victor paid first. Within 48 hours, investors withdrew. Political allies distanced themselves. Contracts were paused, pending review. The empire he had built on precision and control began bleeding from every seam. He accepted it. When his legal team urged him to soften his stance, to negotiate behind closed doors, Victor refused. No more silence, he said. No more protection. Elena watched him closely during those days, not with blind loyalty but with clear eyes. She saw the weight settling into his shoulders, the cost of choosing integrity in a world that punished it. One evening she found him alone in his office, staring at a wall of framed achievements. They all feel hollow now, he said quietly. She stepped closer. Then maybe they always were. He didn't argue. Meanwhile, the people who once dismissed Elena now scrambled to reach her. Former board members called her misunderstood. Executives asked for private conversations. Media outlets begged for interviews. She declined most of them. Power had changed hands, but she refused to wield it the way they had. Until one message stopped her. A woman from the housing project Victor had almost lost. Because of you, the message read, my children will have a home. Elena read it twice. Then she smiled for the first time in weeks. The backlash turned vicious. Online trolls questioned her motives. Anonymous posts accused her of manipulation, ambition, and betrayal. Some even suggested she had orchestrated the entire scandal to gain influence. Victor wanted to respond. Elena stopped him. Let them talk, she said. Noise fades. Truth doesn't. She returned to the bakery during the storm. Not because she had to, but because it grounded her. She helped her mother serve customers. She laughed with neighbors. She remembered who she was before wealth, before contracts, before humiliation. Victor joined her one morning, quietly without cameras. He stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, hands unsure. Her father handed him a tray. Careful, he said. That oven's older than both of us. Victor smiled awkwardly. It was the first time Elena saw him not as a millionaire, not as a symbol, but as a man learning humility. The final reckoning came from Victor's mother. Margaret Harrington requested a meeting. Elena expected cold formality. She wasn't prepared for vulnerability. Margaret sat stiffly, her posture rigid, pride battling regret. I was wrong, she said finally. Victor looked stunned. I judged you because you didn't fit my world, Margaret continued, looking at Elena. I thought power was inherited. I forgot it can be earned. Elena listened without interrupting. I don't expect forgiveness, Margaret said. But I needed to say it. Elena nodded slowly. Thank you, she replied. That matters. It wasn't absolution, but it was accountability. As investigations unfolded, arrests followed. The board members who had framed Elena faced public disgrace. Some resigned quietly. Others were escorted out in handcuffs. Instant karma. The same people who once laughed at her name now avoided saying it aloud. Victor watched it all unfold with a strange calm. I lost everything, he said one night. Elena looked at him. No, she said gently. You lost what wasn't real. He exhaled. Then came the question he had been avoiding. What are we now? The contract sat untouched in a drawer. 2 years. Business arrangement. Expiration clause. Elena didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer, searching his face. Do you love me? She asked. He didn't hesitate. Yes. The word carried weight. She nodded. Then we start over, she said. Not as a deal. Not as an image. She paused. But understand this, respect comes first. Always. He swallowed. I know. The city began to heal. The housing project resumed, this time with transparency, community leadership, and shared ownership. Elena led initiatives quietly without credit. Victor followed, not ahead. They weren't perfect, but they were real. The contract expired on a quiet Tuesday. No press. No lawyers hovering. No dramatic countdown. Just a single date circled on a page that had once defined Elena's entire future. She woke before dawn, unable to sleep, staring at the ceiling of the room that had once felt like a gilded cage. Everything in the mansion was still, too still, as if the house itself was waiting for her decision. For 2 years, this document had been her shield and her sentence. Now it was irrelevant. She dressed simply and walked downstairs, where Victor sat at the kitchen table, the same place where everything had begun to change. There was no tension in his posture this time, only honesty. "It's over," he said quietly, nodding toward the folder between them. "Yes," she replied. "It is." He waited. She did not. "Elena," he said carefully, "whatever you choose, I accept it." She studied him, the man who once saw her as untouchable because she had nothing, and now stood before her stripped of illusion, power reduced, ego dismantled. "I didn't stay because of the contract," she said. "I stayed because you changed." "I changed because of you," he answered. She shook her head gently. "No. You changed because you chose to." That distinction mattered. The city watched from a distance as Victor Harrington stepped away from executive control. Not forced. Not pressured. He transferred leadership to a cooperative board, with community representatives holding real authority. It shocked the industry. Analysts called it career suicide. Victor didn't correct them. He no longer needed their approval. Meanwhile, Elena quietly declined offers that would have catapulted her into celebrity influence. She refused political invitations, lucrative consulting roles, and media platforms. Instead, she returned to school. Finished her degree. She chose substance over spotlight. The bakery flourished. Not because of wealth, but because of purpose. Victor never claimed ownership. He invested, yes, but he worked too. He learned names. He listened. He stood beside Elena's father at the counter, hands dusted with flour, pride replaced with humility. Neighbors noticed. So did Elena. One evening, as they closed the shop together, Victor asked the question he had been afraid to ask. "Do you still see me as the man who bought your silence?" She considered him carefully. "No," she said. "I see you as the man who gave it back." The final test came unexpectedly. A media expose resurfaced old footage from the gala. The whispers, the laughter, the insults Elena endured. The story framed her as a victim. She declined the interview. Instead, she released a single statement. "I wasn't saved by wealth. I wasn't rescued by marriage. I wasn't empowered by revenge. I became powerful the moment I refused to disappear." The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from people across the world, women, workers, immigrants, students, people who had been underestimated and silenced. They saw themselves in her. And that was more powerful than any title. One quiet night, Victor stood with Elena on the balcony overlooking the city. "I never asked you to stay," he said. She smiled softly. "You never needed to." He took a breath. "I don't want a contract. I don't want appearances. I don't want power." He turned to her fully. "I want a life, with you, where I earn my place every day." Elena looked at him, not as a wife by obligation, not as a symbol of redemption, but as a woman choosing freely. She nodded. "Then we write our own terms." They married again. No contracts. No cameras. No deals. Just vows spoken in quiet certainty. Not promises of perfection, but commitments to respect, honesty, and shared strength. This time love was not strategic. It was real. The people who once humiliated Elena faded into irrelevance. The system that tried to break her learned its lesson. And the man who thought she was untouchable discovered the truth too late to stop it. She was untouchable because she could not be owned, silenced, or erased.